right, guys, so today we're gonna talk about the general benefits of exercise. Now I say general because in a couple videos down the road, we're gonna get specifically into the benefits of cardio and the benefits of weight training. But today, like I said, a general sort of view of the benefits of exercise. So let's divide it into two categories. The first one is physical. Now, remember those two podcasts that you guys listened to? They were talking about inflammation and stress. Well, those are super important. And that's actually going to be one of the things we talk about here in this first benefit, which is basically decreased chances of all-cause mortality. In other words, exercise allows you to live longer and to not die of all sorts of various illnesses and diseases. Well, how does it do this? Well, those two podcasts that you guys listened to filled you in on a lot of information. But the first way that it decreases the chances of all-cause mortality is by improving the defense against free radicals and oxidative stress. Remember, free radicals are like little bad guys that punch holes through the cellular membranes of our body, and this is not good. And so training with weights specifically, but in exercise in general, helps you upregulate your body's ability to fight off these free radicals. And so we call that antioxidant enhancement, because not only does it fight off free radicals, but it also reduces the oxidative stress on your body. You can think of oxidative stress on your body sort of like rust on metal. The second way it does it is through optimal gene expression. I'm going to recommend a great book for you guys, a book called Get Serious by Dr. Brett Osborne. And in his book, he dives pretty deep into this reality that through, again, resistance training specifically, but through exercise in general, optimal gene expression occurs because healthy genes, genes that promote health and well-being and longevity, get switched on. And so quite an interesting topic there. There's a ton of research written on it. I recommend you guys look it up on the internet. And the third point under the first category is that exercise restores a youthful hormone profile. Now, specifically, youthful hormones are things like testosterone and growth hormone, but there is a lot of evidence out there that goes to show that when we exercise, youthful hormones begin to be restored to our body, which youthful hormones decrease as we age. And so exercise is a way to reverse that process in a sense. The second great benefit of exercise in general, it dramatically decreases the risk of metabolic syndrome. Now, metabolic syndrome, if you've never heard of it, is something that's closely linked to being overweight, obese, or diabetic. You think metabolism when you think metabolic syndrome. Something's wrong with your metabolism, right? And specifically, what's going on here is a condition known as insulin insensitivity. Now, insulin is a hormone that your body produces that allows the sugar in your blood to be shuttled into a muscle cell, a liver cell for storage. So generally speaking, when we eat food, the body breaks that food down into sugars. Now, that sugar enters into our bloodstream. That's where insulin comes in. Insulin helps to make the cell wall of a muscle cell or a liver cell a bit more permeable so that that sugar can then be transported into the cell and be stored for later use as energy. Now, the problem with insulin insensitivity is this. If we have very high blood sugar and our cells are resisting the insulin, because we've been eating highly processed foods full of sugars and added sugars to the extent to where we don't live an active lifestyle and we're not using that energy, our body becomes resistant to that insulin. We have too much sugar, we're not using the energy. So having high blood sugar can lead to serious health problems. So again, exercise helps to reverse this issue if you have it, or it helps to prevent it in the first place. Some of the other benefits of exercise from a physical perspective are reduced risk of cardiovascular disease, decreased blood pressure, and increased bone density and muscle mass. Now let's talk about the bone density for a second. When I do a bench press or a back squat or do some form of resistance training, or even if I'm running and my feet are pounding on the pavement, what happens to my bones actually is I'm receiving micro fractures in my bones. The same thing is actually occurring with my muscles. When I'm doing a bench press or a squat or running for long periods of time, I get micro tears in the muscle fibers. Now, this is actually not a bad thing, assuming that I recover from the exercise. If I'm recovering, what's happening with my bones is that they're layering themselves over with new bone, which helps to reinforce their strength and make them stronger, make them more dense. And the same thing is happening with my muscles. That's why I build more muscle mass. I'm receiving micro tears in the muscle fibers, and the same healing process occurs that happens with the bones. I'm layering on new muscle, and I'm building more dense muscle and building more mass as a result. And the third physical benefit from exercise in general is improved sleep quality. Now, most people just know this anecdotally. When they start a new exercise training regimen, that first couple of nights, man, they are wiped out and they get a great night's sleep. And so this has been proven without a doubt that exercise is related to improved sleep quality. Okay, now we have to go over and look at the other side of the board, which is going to tell us about our mental benefits from exercise. And this is super important. This is one of the reasons why we have our exercise portion of the Nehemiah Project's addiction program, is because it will reduce feelings of anxiety and depression. This has been shown without a doubt. One of the ways that it reduces anxiety and depression is through a release of what we'll call feel-good neurochemicals. And in fact, Charlie Houlihan discussed this at length on the podcasts that we have available on inflammation and stress. But an example of these neurochemicals are things like dopamine, serotonin, endorphins. Most people have heard of endorphins. Now, these literally make you feel good. And when we exercise, they're released in abundance. So this helps to combat anxiety and depression. Another way that it helps to reduce feelings of anxiety and depression is by shifting our focus. And I can just share from my own life, I tend to hyper-focus on issues. And if those issues that I'm hyper-focused on are negative or are causing me stress, exercise takes my eyes off of those issues and puts them on the barbell that's in front of me, or whatever the workout is for the day. And so that's another way that it helps to reduce feelings of anxiety and depression. Another way is that if you work out in groups, that's going to increase your positive social interaction. And many addicts and alcoholics tend to isolate. And the final way that it helps to reduce anxiety and depression is because exercise is a healthy coping strategy. It's so often, addicts and alcoholics, we run to the bottle or we run to the substance to try to, get rid of those feelings that we don't want to face. Well, exercise is a healthy coping strategy. I tend to get kind of frustrated and angry, and especially back when I was a younger guy and I was using drugs. Well, the weight room is a great positive way for me to channel that aggression or that energy that I have into something positive for my life. The second way that exercise benefits us mentally is that it alters the progression of serious neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. Now, maybe some of the younger people in the program aren't even thinking about this. Some of the older people in the program might actually be thinking about this. And I'm here to tell you that exercise will help alter the progression of these serious issues. The first way that it alters the progression of Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease is through the augmented antioxidant status. Remember how we talked about that back up here when we started this video? If your body is more resilient at fighting off the negative effects from too much free radicals and oxidative stress, that will help to protect your brain from the degenerative effects of free radicals and oxidative stress. The second way that it helps to fight off these serious neuro diseases is through increased cerebral blood flow. Training increases blood flow in general, and your brain is part of that. And the third way that it helps to alter the progression of Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease is through potentially enhanced neurogenesis. Now, if you have no idea what the heck I just said, pay attention. Neurogenesis is the process of developing new neural pathways. And so an example of how this occurs with exercise is when we're learning a new movement, let's say a back squat, right? Or we're really learning how to sprint for the first time, or to jump, or whatever. That's a new movement, and it's going to require new neural pathways in our brain. So it's spurring on regenerative processes in the brain by learning that new movement. We're literally creating new neural pathways and connections, and we're doing that specifically through the corticospinal pathway, which connects our brain to our muscles. And sustained training or sustained exercise only serves to reinforce these new neural pathways. So I hope this video encourages you to fight that desire to not get up off the couch and to not train, because there's just, without a doubt, so many benefits to exercise.